walk through an open marketplace and buy a cheap knockoff of some name brand fashion item like Tom Ford, Versace, or Apricot. Well, it's not just name brand products that get the rip-off treatment. There's plenty of quick cash grab films made by small indie studios where they try to copy a major releasing blockbuster or franchise offering by cloning it as close as possible so they can release it in time just to confuse people who might not know the difference. Like your grandma, for example, who got you Alien vs. Hunter instead of Alien vs. Predator. Albeit, neither was really that great. Before we begin, please like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Every new sub helps us achieve our goal and keeps us motivated to create new content. With that being said, I'm your host, Jamie, and here are 10 trashiest cheap horror ripoffs. Number 1, Birdemic. Alfred Hitchcock's 1963 thriller, The Birds, is a gold standard of the creature feature genre. The film embodies all of Hitchcock's skill as the original master of suspense. Being the influential film that it is, it also inspired many ripoffs. Now, I'm not making claim that they're all bad, but filmmaker James Wynn's 2008 film, Birdemic, Shock and Terror, is so bad, it's good. Maybe not. This Hitchcock knockoff revolves around a town being attacked by mutated birds, which happens around halfway through the film. It also contains an awkward, clunky, chemistry-less love story. So how cheap exactly is this film? Well, it was produced for $10,000. The Birds, which, might I remind you, was released nearly 50 years earlier, cost $3.3 million. The advantage of such a low cost is that making out a profit is much easier. Its cult following helped the wing-studded tragedy spawn not one, but 2 sequels. Many a critic said it's one of the worst films ever made. Ronnie Scheib was a little nicer to the flick, stating, "Howlingly bad films are a dime a dozen, but the evident Ed Wood-like sincerity with which writer-director James Wynn lovingly crafted this compendium of cinematic don'ts gives it a goofy, almost surrealist charm." Birdemic is laughably bad. Wooden acting, atrocious dialogue, shoddy camera work, hack editing, and the sound mixing and editing completely abysmal. Was everyone working on this film a novice? That all said, I didn't hate it, I just found it hilarious. And you can check it out on Tubi, Pluto, Plex, Freevee, Redbox, Peacock, Prime, Google Play, and Fandango. Number 2, Shaitan. Shaitan, or Demoness, was released in Turkey on November 1974. While this subpar supernatural motion picture is considered a ripoff of William Friedkin's 1973 horror classic, The Exorcist, by some, others consider it a low-budget, unauthorized remake. Regardless of where you stand, it's a poorly made film and an insult to The Exorcist as well as Turkish cinema. Luckily, it didn't see the light of day outside of Turkey to any official capacity until its 2007 DVD release. The Satanic Crap Shack is labeled as a horror comedy, but that might have been retroactively. Oh, the plot is when a young girl starts acting odd, medical professionals are at a loss, but the church isn't. Kidding, but not really. Shaitan revolves around a tween girl, Gul, whose parents are experiencing a divorce. Gul then becomes possessed by the devil. This low-budget, almost shot-for-shot remake of The Exorcist lacks the technical cinematic finesse, classic themes, and nuance of the iconic award-winning 1973 masterpiece. But hey, it's good for a laugh, maybe even a cry, and possibly some projectile vomiting. The best thing about it is is it uses the Exorcist's unforgettable iconic theme. It's fascinating the film turned out so bad considering the director, Metin Erksan, was an award-winning Turkish filmmaker and art historian. No one's perfect, but when things like this happen, I'm extra curious about all the behind-the-scenes production issues. Were they budgetary? Was studio interference one of them? Were producers too hands-on? Or was it the filmmaker's artistic ego? I gots to know. Also, forewarning, the transfer used on Amazon or Fandor is from a VHS copy, and it was not cleaned up or upscaled to any capacity. Regardless, you can discover Shaitan on YouTube or Prime. Number 3, Mahakal. Wes Craven's 1984 slasher classic, A Nightmare on Elm Street, introduced the world to the Springwood slasher, the man who kills the children of Elm Street in their dreams, Freddy Krueger, portrayed so charismatically by Robert Englund, with such a deliciously devilish performance. He made Freddy an essential part of the pantheon of 80s slasher icons. 10 years after its original release, Bollywood made another version of Nightmare with Mahakal, the first Hindi film to take inspiration from A Nightmare on Elm Street was the 1989 film Koni Murda. Mahakal was the second attempt, and even with limited information, it seems to be the more successful one. Not only did the flick make 4 times its budget in India alone, it seems to be more popular with audiences as it has a 4.8 on IMDb, opposed to Kahuni Murda's 3.8. Neither score is anything to write home about. Regardless, Mahakal follows Anita and her friends being tormented and even killed in their dreams by a vengeful spirit. Said spirit, Mahakal, also wields bladed fingers. Directed by 2 of the 6 Ramsey brothers, Tulsi and Shyam, this cut-rate Krueger makes up for enthusiasm what it lacks in originality. I will give it this. Its production wasn't half bad. I was not entertained. The Bollywood musical numbers were an interesting touch, especially the Michael Jackson-inspired ones. Yes, you heard that right. If I didn't know any better, I'd have assumed Bad was released in India around that time. The flick was certainly overdrawn though, over 40 minutes longer than A Nightmare on Elm Street. Maybe it's because I have a soft spot for the franchise that inspired this film, but I recommend it, and you can check it out on YouTube. Number 4, Dolly Dearest. Killer dolls have been featured in cinema dating back to 1945's anthology film, The Dead of Night, which's final segment featured a killer ventriloquist dummy. 1929's The Great Gabbo and 1936's The Devil Doll were certainly precursors of the subgenre. But the 80s saw a generationally defining killer doll film that was also a mainstream success. 1988's slasher classic, Child's Play, which featured the slasher icon Chucky for the first time. The hilariously crude and devilishly ruthless good guy doll was possessed by notorious fictional serial killer Charles Lee Ray, who was played to perfection by Brad Dourif. Chucky in the original film became such a cultural phenomenon that it spawned 6 sequels as well as 3-season TV series that last 35 plus years. Child's Play also had its slew of imitators and ripoffs. It's no surprise that Chucky, also known as the Lakeshore Strangler, has had such a chokehold on the genre ever since. A more notable ripoff was 1991's Dolly Dearest. The film follows the Wade family, who had just purchased a doll factory in Mexico. Unbeknownst to them, a malevolent child spirit was released from a Mayan temple nearby. And of course, This means a doll must be possessed. This might be a low bar, but this is arguably one of the better films on this list. It certainly has its moments. Interestingly enough, this psycho doll flick was director Maria Elise's first non-X-rated film, and you can catch it on Prime, Google Play, and Roku. Number 5, Pet Graveyard. As if it isn't obviously enough from the title, Pet Graveyard is a riff on one of Stephen King's classic horror films, It. Kidding. Its title is a spoof of Pet Sematary. And that's about as far as it goes referencing or even ripping off the original film or novel. This 2019 supernatural suckfest sees a group of teens partake in a ritual which they can go to the brink of life and death. Honestly, I was getting more Flatliners vibes. Regardless, after the characters partake in said brinking, death and its pet cat stalk them. The biggest problem with the film isn't with its production design so much as it's just bland, even taking itself too seriously. If all involved really leaning into the ridiculousness, the flick could have been fun. Spoiler alert, it's not. Or they could have kept the serious tones and delved deeper into the themes of grief. This would also require sharper writing and stronger performances. LA Times critic Noel Murray stated it best. It's hard to say what's the bigger cheat here. That Pet Graveyard isn't the shameless King copy it promises to be, or that it isn't even cheesy enough to mock. British producer Becca Hirani is known for these knockoff type films, whether she's producing, directing, or even starring in them. Kudos to her for finding her niche though, I guess. If you're just morbidly curious about Pet Graveyard, you can unearth it on Tubi, Google Play, Fandango, Prime, or Apple TV. Number 6, Hobgoblins. 1988's Hobgoblins was director Rick Sloan's answer to the Steven Spielberg-produced 1984 classic Gremlins. And by answer to, I pretty much mean a ripoff. Granted, the creatures in this trash heap grant wishes and are from space. Regardless, the flick is often compared to Gremlins. I mean, the Hobgoblins look like the mean Gremlins. Although this cut-rate mini creature feature is also unrated, unfortunately it is not gory, so sorry my fellow gorehounds. Sloan was also the editor and cinematographer, so perhaps his celluloid travesty was merely due to a man being stretched too thin. The B flick was produced on a shoestring budget, even for 1988. Of $15,000 and released independently through American Cinema Marketing. Though it was maligned by critics and ravaged by audiences, having a dismal 11% on Rotten Tomatoes and landing on IMDb's bottom 100 at number 25, Hobgoblins was successful enough to earn cult status and even garner a sequel in 2009. Also written, directed, and produced by the original creator, Sloan. Hobgoblins also had the honor of getting riffed by the Mystery Science Theater 3000 team. And you can witness the original dumpster fire on Tubi, Plex, Sling, Fandango, Prime, and Google Play. Number 7, Don't Speak. John Krasinski's landmark horror film, A Quiet Place, takes place after unknown creatures have wiped out most of humanity. They can't see, but have phenomenal hearing. A Quiet Place would go on to be one of the highest grossing and best reviewed horror films of modern times. It even landed on the American Film Institute's top 10 films of 2018. 2020's cheap knockoff, Don't Speak, would receive no such accolades. The flick doesn't even have a score on Rotten Tomatoes, which means no one wanted to review it. The A Quiet Place inspired crap heap does have a low 3.2 on IMDb though. Writer-director Scott Chambers, or Scott Jeffrey, a 25-year-old producer who has produced over 100 of these shite knockoffs, most notably the 100 Acre Woods travesty, Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey. Don't Speak follows Rita and her family, who upon going to visit her dying father out in the boonies, discover an empty town and a creature that lives there. Although this low-rent creature feature looks fairly professional, it's drab and melodramatic, making it a bit of a slog. You can stream this insult to celluloid on Tubi, Redbox, Freevee, Prime, Google Play, and Fandango. Number 8. Offerings. Many a film have taken inspiration from John Carpenter's 1978 classic slasher, Halloween. While the subgenre was in its infancy in '78, forming with films like 1960's Psycho, 1973's Black Christmas, and 1974's The Texas Chainsaw Massacre, it was Halloween's immense critical and commercial success that defined the subgenre and kicked it into overdrive. The height of said subgenre was in the 80s, and by the later part of the decade, its popularity waned until the 90s slasher revival was incited by Wes Craven's 1996 classic, Scream. Regardless, 1989 saw the release of a blatant Halloween knockoff, Offerings. Though Halloween may have galvanized the slasher subgenre, it wasn't quick to jump on the sequel train, having only released 3 at this point, with the third one having nothing to do with the rest. Even still, Offerings follows an escaped mental patient stalking and killing people in a small town. Despite a fun tagline, remember him before he dismembers you. The flick is not. It was written, directed, and produced by Christopher Reynolds. And no, not the temporary member of the Virginia House of Burgesses. Christopher J. Reynolds graduated from the University of Oklahoma with a master's in cinematography, and this was his feature debut. Perhaps he also overextended himself and should have stuck with what he knew. This cut-rate knockoff is for the birds because it is cheap, cheap, cheap. But you can catch it on Prime. Number 9. L'Ultimato Squalo, or The Last Shark. I'll be perfectly candid. Not every shark film is a ripoff of Steven Spielberg's 1975 classic, Jaws, as many would lead you to believe. However, the Italian horror film The Last Shark, or Great White, most certainly is, even to the point where Universal Studios sued them for plagiarism. The dime store Jaws revolves around a coastal town terrorized by a shark. It's so Jaws that there's even a neglectful mayor refusing to close beaches, and a shark hunter, although it is devoid of Spielbergian level craft. At one point during the film, when the team is hunting the great white, Spot the shark hunter, named Hammer of all things, starts wildly firing his shotgun at it, which I found hilarious. Director-writer Enzo G. Castellari was a prolific Italian filmmaker, coming from a family of filmmakers. But every auteur, every iconic filmmaker, has their duds and flops. The Last Shark, though a critical dud, was far from a flop as it grossed $18 million stateside over the course of a month until it was pulled from the theaters due to Universal's lawsuit. The shark flick didn't see a home release until 2013. It also had the honor of having a riff tracks done on it from some of the team of Mystery Science Theater 3000. Otherwise, you can paddle your way on over to Prime and check out the original. Number 10. Creature. 1985's Creature, or Titan Find, was writer-director William Malone's sophomore outing. His first film, Scared to Death, released in 1981, and also a low-budget sci-fi film. Although both critically panned, Creature is remembered for being a blatant knockoff of Ridley Scott's 1979 sci-fi horror game changer, Alien. While Alien was smart, taut, tense, with breathtaking production design, Malone's film, not so much. Granted, Alien had a much larger budget, $11 million compared to its 85 knockoffs, $750,000 to $1.2 million. This space turd was able to profit as it grossed $8 million stateside theatrically. Its Betamax and VHS releases in October of the same year also saw some success. It didn't see an official DVD release of the original cut until 2013. The flick follows two teams of scientists, a German and US one, exploring Saturn's moon of Titan, where they awaken a long-dormant alien. Undoubtedly a product of its time, I can give some props to some of the use of practical effects. I do appreciate some cheese as well. After all, I'm from Wisconsin. Side note, if anyone is looking for a Betamax version of this, there's one for $31.95 on eBay as I write this. Otherwise, you can stream it on Sling, Philo, Fubo, MGM Plus, Prime, and Apple TV. Thanks for checking out the video. Did we leave any films off the list? Let us know in the comments. If you enjoyed the video, please like, share, comment, and subscribe to our channel. Don't forget to tap that bell icon to stay up to date with our latest releases. You can reach out to us on Twitter or X at Studios Fat, or chat with us on Discord, linked below. We're also now on Blue Sky. You can find us at studiosfat.bsky.social, which will also link below. If you're really enjoying our content and want to help support us, click that join button for exclusive content, rewards, and perks. Make sure to check out our very own merch store located at fatninja.shop. All proceeds go towards our next film project, so we'd greatly appreciate it. I've been your host, Jamie. Thanks again and take care.